Hey guys, this is Hydra from Xtrades back with another video, and in this video we're going to go over SOFI's 300% move up from 2023's lows, right? So let's take a look at the weekly chart first, and then we can move down to the daily chart, right? So SOFI opened up or IPO'd in 2020, right? And it went from $10 to 28, right? So a lot of momentum when this stock IPO'd, and yeah, there was a lot of hype around it, and they formed a nice base for almost like 3 months, and then it ended up breaking down as the 2022 bear market started, right? And then since then it pretty much just formed like a base here in 2023, and 2024 it was kind of chopping around, but in 2023 this one was forming a nice base, had some momentum here, and like tried to break out but ended up failing, and then it kind of just reset and chopped around, right? So the main base that we want to focus on is this area right here, right? So in 2024, we were again just chopping around right in this base, and then once we broke out here, this is when we started getting some serious momentum, right? We went from $10 to $18 in like a really short period of time, right? In 2-3 months, which is pretty impressive, even for a small cap name like this. And there was some slight increase in volume, not the best increase in volume. I typically want to see some big skyscraper bars like this one over here, but in the first rally we didn't get too much volume coming into this name just yet, right? And then we ended up breaking down and then bouncing off that previous resistance level, which turned into support, right? We bounced off, and then yeah, we got a really nice V-shaped recovery, and now we are making new 52-week highs, and we are actually getting pretty close to making new all-time highs as well, right? As we are about to break out of this big base, right? Or we actually are currently breaking out of the base. Key resistance was at 25, but we are yeah, clearing it at the moment, so that's definitely a big positive for sure, right? So anyway, my point is SOFI was a name that we should have been watching pretty closely, as it was basing around here for almost 2 years, right? And then specifically 2024, when it was breaking out of this base that it rejected 2 times previously earlier that year, or once in 2023, once in 2024, right? That 10.5 resistance level, and then we finally broke that in October. That was the buy signal, right? So let's go down to the daily chart and see how we could have actually bought this one in real time, and kind of do like a mini deep dive, right? So here we started breaking out, right? Here a nice increase in volume, so that's a good sign, that's a positive. And then once we got that gap up, right, we formed a nice flag here. So this flag was technically buyable, right? So that was the first real setup there. And then we had another setup over here as we were breaking out, right? We formed like a mini base, and then over here we gapped up and took off, right? So this candle was the second buy point, and then over here we formed a pretty nice flag setup, right? So this was another buy point as well, and then another like flag here, mini downtrend break, that was another buy setup as well, right? And then here we entered like a short correction, and then we got a really nice V-shaped recovery, but we ended up fading because of market weakness, right? So there were a lot of buy setups here, right? From the first buy setup, if you held it all the way to the peak, which is not realistic, but let's say you did, that's an 84% move, right? And then the second one here, right, that is 54% move, 55% move. And then over here, third entry, it's a 34% move, right? So all of these setups were really solid, and you could have gotten some pretty nice gains off that, right? But then we ended up correcting, right? We ended up bouncing off that key support level, and then we got a really nice V-shaped recovery. So this is the part that I want to focus on the most, because there were a lot of opportunities here, right? So here we formed like a mini base, right? We were consolidating for a couple months, and then we finally broke out. So as we were breaking out here, that would have been a pretty solid entry, right? So as soon as we clear that 15.21 level, this one would have been a pretty nice entry, right? Because you're clearing like some mini resistance here. So on this candle, let's say you buy, stop loss low of day, right? Then you would have been on this trade without being stopped out, right? So the exact entry why I chose this candle is because, so let me just clean up my chart. So over here you have like an inside bar almost. I'm not sure if it's exactly an inside bar, but as soon as you as soon as you clear that inside bar, right, that's a buy setup, and stop loss would be that low of day. So this is the stop loss, this is the entry, right? So from $15, this one trended up really nicely all the way up to 26, right, with no major hiccups. So yeah, that is a 77% move, right? And then over here, you actually form like a mini flag, 2-bar flag. So that's technically a buy setup. Over here, again, a really nice flag setup. This is definitely a good one, right? It gets a little bit extended, so then it forms a flag and then it breaks out again, right? So that's a top tier setup for sure. And then here you form another flag, but now we're getting kind of late into the run because it already made such a big move, right? So now we need some actual basing, and that's what it does, right? It goes sideways for a couple weeks, takes a bit of a rest, and then forms like a mini flag here again, right? And then breaks out higher. And then over here we have a really nice reversal candle, right? This is a hammer reversal candle, so you can buy as soon as it breaks out or breaks that reversal candle high of day, right? So on this candle, it's technically buyable. Stop loss would have been placed at that hammer candle low of day, right? And again, that was a really nice buy setup because it went from 22 to 26 in a couple days, which is an 18% move in 4 days, right? So yeah, this one looks really good right now. I don't think this one is done or even close to being done. I think this one is still in its early stages, and I think this has potential for a move up to like 100, right? I would not be surprised. Hood did the same thing, right? This one went from like $7 to 117, right? And I think SOFI has a lot of potential as well. I think this one can make a major move, and it has all of the characteristics of a big winner. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one, and I definitely like this one for a long-term buy, along with Robinhood as well. But yeah, my point is this name offered a lot of entries, so I wanted to do a deep dive. And again, the best entries were during this period, right? When we had the initial rally, but we ended up failing, right? My market corrected a little bit and it pulled back in pretty hard. And then we got a V-shaped recovery where we had a lot of nice opportunities again, right? So SoFi is definitely a stock that offered a lot of opportunities. One to keep watching still, right? Even though it made such a big move, I think this one is set up for a big move higher. So yeah, this is definitely a top tier name and one that I'm going to continue watching for future opportunities. But yeah, I hope this deep dive was somewhat helpful. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in.